Get sat down comfortably, brace yourself. If I had a trigger warning, I would flash it up, because that's what you seem to be able to have to do these days. When you want to be controversial, and by being controversial, I mean talking about the word woman. Now, some of you at home will be groaning, going, oh, why is she talking about this? What a boring subject. I actually think it's a very important subject, actually, because it was revealed today that another NHS website, this time part funded by the Welsh Government, has left out the terms women and girls from its guidance on periods. Instead, it's been replaced by phrases such as people who bleed and talking about half the population having periods, etc. Critics have complained that the language is confusing and that it could complicate health messaging for vulnerable girls. I just personally think it's all pathetic. Mary-Ann, for me, this is not necessarily just about this one particular website that's talking about people that bleed. To me, this is about a subtle, ever so gradual, inch by inch, careful so no one notices approach to an almost not mentioning women. And it makes me, I don't want to say offended, because I'm not one of these snowflakes that gets offended by everything, but it's something that sits very uncomfortably with me. Where do you stand on it?
I don't know why it makes you uncomfortable to expand communications to make them clearer and more inclusive of people that they are relevant to. It doesn't erase women. It doesn't mean that most women do or don't have periods. There are some women who don't bleed. That doesn't make them less of a woman. But the people who don't identify as a girl or as a woman, who perhaps have absolutely no interest in trans rights, in the debate, in exploring non-binary genders, they might just have medical conditions such that they have an anatomy that isn't the typical biological anatomy, and they are identified men who have periods. That happens. And if there is information
I find all of
that
this
is accessible to people who they don't feel shamed, they don't feel belittled, they don't feel excluded, and they can access that information, then that's a good thing. And that you're not saying to women, you're not really a woman if you don't bleed. I think make that information accessible. We don't need to make it into a culture war.
But if you don't bleed, by bleeding we're talking about having periods, I'm not talking about falling over, cutting your hand, we're talking about having a period. If you don't have a period, you're probably not going to be reading guidance on periods. So that part, for me, you lose me on that. I don't know when we're talking about not offending people. To me, it's very simple. Your biology is your biology. If you want to create this new catch-all phrase, women plus whatever it is that you want to say to make sure that no one else gets hurt over there, whatever. To me, what's happened, and I'll bring you in, Alex, as well for your thoughts, it's almost like women is the word that dare not be mentioned in case someone gets called a bigoted or a transphobe or that stupid word TERF or whatever the latest thing is today.
I don't think it has to, though. That's the thing.
Why are people saying people that bleed then?
Because that's the most encompassing, inclusive term. That doesn't exclude women. It just includes other people who don't identify as women who also have periods.
Alex.
There aren't many of them, but they shouldn't be excluded.
I think you've struck on part of the point. Can I start by saying how much I admire Mary-Ann for coming on a channel where the viewership is almost universally going to disagree with what she said and say
Thank you, Alex. That means a lot.
Take your position and to say it frankly, and I respect that. That said, for me, I think that since the dawn of recorded time, women have been, to one extent or another, and things have got better and worse, persecuted and less than in human society. And just when, and I'm not pretending things are equal yet, but just when equality might be argued to be in glimpsing distance, ta-da! The rug is pulled out from under you. Now, any man can say he's a woman. I'm in your sports, I'm in your changing room. There's no real such thing as a woman anymore. What sounds rather a lot like the patriarchy to me.
Oh,
a woman,
nice.
Yes, well, you had your say and here's mine, right? A woman is an adult human female. And the idea that people need this help when the vast amounts of effort society will spend on you and the vast amount of help you get, if you're in a vanishingly small percentage of the population that's transitioning from one gender to another, with all the help that you will get, the idea you need this website that's hived off from a bit of the Welsh Government to tell you what a period is or not is ridiculous. It's meant to be giving guidance to women and girls. Women and girls should be receiving it.
No.
Let's be fair to the Welsh Government, finally. It's not them who've done it. It's some organisation. And for all we know, the Welsh Government might we should be so lucky, see the light and disown them promptly.